We're live, baby. UFC 244 recap. We got that Boom Machino right here in the nice Jack Daniels glass. Only one way to get this started. You guys know how we do it. We're gonna, you know, talk about what happened with UFC 244. Obviously, the main event we had the controversial stoppage with the doctor comes in, checks on Nate Diaz. We'll get to that a little bit later. That was unfortunate, but it was a great night of fights. A lot of big knockouts on the card, and also, a lot of big profile fights and fights that had significant outcomes for what's to happen in the near future as well. So, we'll just get crack a lack and we'll start on the prelims. Julio Arce, Hakeem Dawodu. This fight was a little more lackluster than I would have imagined. I would have thought that it would have been a little bit more high output, a little bit more excitement. Both guys coming off a knockout. I feel like maybe they just showed a little bit too much respect to each other, which happens. Two guys that know, the other guy's dangerous. You don't want to make any kind of mistakes and get caught. So the fight wasn't what I would have imagined it playing out to be, but Hakeem Dawodu, edged out the decision. I thought he got it as well. We saw Julio take his back for an insignificant amount of time, but Hakeem got out of it. He stayed on top. He landed, the more significant leg kicks and probably the more power shots, I would say. Julio just, didn't really pull the trigger as much as he usually does. So I think that's where the loss came in. Um, Lyman Good puts it on Chance Recount. R- Recountry or Henconte. I don't know how to say. He's a French last name, but he pronounces it Rencounter. So Ring counter didn't take enough chances, I'll tell you that. But Lyman Good looks good. He comes out with a KO victory. I missed that fight. I was at the fights. I was actually on my way to the fights when this fight was taking place. I was trying to watch them on my phone so I can, stay sharp for the Boom recap. But it's hard to catch every single thing when you're on a train. Sometimes you lose the Wi-Fi, the service. So I missed that one, but that's a big win for Lyman Good. I predicted he would go in there and win this fight. And then I made it there for the Chukagian Maya fight, which typical Chukagian fight, great movement, great accuracy. Um, she was piecing up Maya. She was landing good leg kicks. Maya was pressuring forward most of the fight, but that's usual for Caitlin's fights. Her opponents do tend to move forward more so, for the duration of the fight, but they also tend to look more damaged towards the end of the fight. Caitlin does really well with being elusive, moving left and right, landing her jab while these girls are moving forward, and really keeping them at bay, utilizing her reach and her leg kicks to make sure these power strikers don't get inside on her and land anything significant. I noticed that in this fight. She seemed a little bit more aggressive than usual, which is good because if she's gonna move forward and fight someone like Shevchenko, that's another level right there, man. That's a girl who's great everywhere, essentially. Strong in the clinch, aggressive on the feet. Um, Not the most aggressive as far as like in your face trying to knock you out, but she definitely has the power to knock girls out. We saw that with Jessica Ai. So you got to watch out when you move on to fight someone like Shevchenko. You got to be sharp everywhere. I think Chukagian should be next. She was supposed to have that title fight. I believe she backed out. She had a wedding, and she wanted to still take that fight, but they gave her Jennifer Maya to kind of give her one more test, and she passed the test flying colors. And we'll probably see her get the next title shot sometime next year. Um, on the prelim cards at ESPN2, man, Edmund Shabazian knocks out Brad Tavares. That was just beautiful striking. The guy's only 21 years old. He's a young lion, has a lot of confidence. He has a good attitude. It just goes to show that he's training with Ronda Rousey's old coach, but his striking is on another level. Ronda was kind of gray in the striking, I feel, but this guy is like well trained. He's very confident and also calm in the cage. For a young guy, he's very mature. To knock out someone like Brad Tavares is not an easy task. I mean, the guy went the distance with Israel Adesanya, and that wasn't that long ago. So to see someone like Edmund Shabazian kind of piece up Brad and land that head kick flush, he set it up perfectly with a flash jab through the same side kick right behind it, slapped Brad right on the face and put him out cold, man. That was just vicious KO. That was very impressive, and I really liked how he looked in that fight because I thought Brad Tavares was going to be like a real big test for him. Supposedly Tavares went into that last fight with an injury, and that could be why he didn't look as usual, as good as he usually does. But this fight supposedly came in healthy, and look, man, this guy, Shabazian comes in sharp. KO. I don't even know if anyone has KO'd Brad Tavares like that. I'd have to check, but that might be the first one in a while, if not the first one ever in the UFC. So that's just such a big win, and I feel like now, Edmund saying Edmund saying how he wants to be the youngest UFC champion ever. The countdown is on. He has about a year and 8 months. Supposedly, he has it all counted down to the T, and he has a good chance at doing it. If his next fight is against a top five guy, and he does it puts on the same kind of performance, we could see him fighting the champion by the end of next year. Um, then we had Shane Burgos versus Makwan Amirkhani. In this fight, you could see Shane Burgos was just a more physically opposing guy. Started to rip to the body. It seemed like Makwan's only chance at this fight was to take the fight to the ground and try to look for a submission, which he did. He almost had that guillotine, almost had that Darce, but Burgos really stayed sharp on the ground. He had good defense, took the fight back to the feet, and you could just see Makwan was folding. He was starting to fade, and Burgos had the more power. He was landing those body shots. He started mixing it up to the body towards the third round, and really hurt Makwan, kind of put him down. And Makwan's sneaky because sometimes he pretends he's more hurt than he is. Maybe he's more tired, but he pretends he's hurt. He kind of knows how to just stay in there for a little bit longer. But Burgos was aggressive, going for the finish. He got it in the third round by TKO. Makwan just couldn't continue. That body shot was just landed flush, put him down. The ref stepped in. Really big performance for Shane Burgos. I look forward to see where he goes next at 145. Maybe he fights like a top 15, top 10 guy. Corey Anderson with the biggest upset of the night. I was happy to see him get it done. He's put his dues in the UFC, and he's been in the game for a while. He's fought the best of the best. I knew coming into this fight he had that experience factor, but we didn't really know what to expect from Johnny Walker. Being in these fights where he ends the fight early by knockout, flashy guy. He comes into the cage dancing. He's a fun, captivating character. People want to see him fight. They want to see his flashiness. They want to see his dancing on the way to the cage. But this was just a little bit too much too soon, maybe. Corey Anderson came in with a chip on his shoulder. He wanted to prove the UFC wrong, the media wrong, all the doubters, and he did, man. I would have expected if he won this fight, it was by decision, by out wrestling Johnny Walker, by taking shots early, but withstanding it, and clinching up against the cage, getting takedowns, landing some ground and pound, and maybe getting a decision by doing that kind of thing. But man, did he proved everyone wrong, came out there and landed a big right hand, had Johnny Walker wobbled on the feet. The ref stepped in. I thought it could have went a little bit longer, but nonetheless, it was a healthy, good stoppage as far as that goes. And man, is Corey Anderson going to get the next title shot though? They have Dominic Reyes. He just put Chris Weidman out. And Chris Weidman is a big name. So, I know Johnny Walker had a lot of hype, but we really didn't see him fight that upper echelon of guys like we have seen Chris Weidman, who's a former world champion, who's fought Anderson Silva, Yoel Romero, like the top guys in the divisions. Moves up to 185, gets taken out by a crisp left hand by Dominic Reyes, who's undefeated. Uh, you know, not not really counting the Ozdemir fight because I don't really feel like he won that fight, but he did. So it is what it is. He is undefeated technically. Uh, Who do you guys wanna see, next? That's what I wanna know. I wanna know who do you guys wanna see fight John Jones? John Jones just doesn't seem to be interested in these guys as much as, you know, we like him to be, for getting up for a fight. Obviously, if Johnny Walker won that fight, I feel like it would have created a lot more buzz, a lot more hype to see could this be the guy that derails John Jones, land something crazy against a guy like Jones who fights very technical. He just out techniques everybody he fights. So I just can't see a guy like Corey Anderson being to out wrestle John Jones or really outstrike John Jones. It's going to be tough to see that. Reyes has the size. Maybe Reyes can land a big left hand. I don't see that either. But who do you guys want to see John Jones fight next? I think they're going to lean towards Reyes, but we'll see what happens. Moving on to the main card, we had Wonderboy Thompson versus Vicente Luque. And let me tell you, man, sitting cage side, watching Wonder Boy put on that clinic of striking. It was just a real treat to watch that level of striking, that kind of accuracy, that kind of speed, and for 3 rounds straight, the guy was just sharp. He started a little slow, he took a couple of calf kicks, but then he opened up, then he turned the energy bar on, and he was just on fire the whole fight, man. He was landing jabs, landing left hands, switching stances, landing from the other stance, and he's just as good lefty as he is, righty. It's crazy watching him strike. It's like, the guy has his hands down, he's in a karate stance, but that's his game. That's his his expertise, I would say. He's to outstrike a guy like Vicente Luque like that, who is a striker himself, and he made him look amateur. I mean, it was just so impressive, especially with Stephen Thompson coming off a big knockout like that and having to face those demons and come back in a fight like this and just completely perform to the best of his ability. That might have been even the best Wonderboy Thompson we've seen against a younger, hungry Vicente Luque coming off a big win against Platinum Perry, in a brawl type of fight. But that just goes to show that styles make fights. Perry's a guy who gets in there in the pocket and exchanges at that range where he's able to get touched a lot. Wonderboy Thompson is in and out. He's bouncy on the feet. He uses those side kicks really well to keep you at bay, and he just darts in and out like a karate style, like Machida. It's like he's in with that big left hand, crisp, fast, and then he's out of reach. And Luke is a counter striker. He likes to try to bait you and get you to come in closer to land that left hook over the top after you try to throw something at him. And he just couldn't seem to put it on Thompson. He landed a couple of shots. Let's give Thompson props. I mean, he definitely got his chin tested again after that Pettis fight, but he was just so sharp, man. Just so much more technical, and that guy really impressed me. Um, Now, one of the more lackluster fights on the card that was really anticipated, highly anticipated, was Darren Till's debut at middleweight, fighting Kelvin Gastelum, who just came off a war with Israel Adesanya. It's almost like you kind of expect the same guy to show up, the same fight. Maybe both of these two were coming in with the same kind of mindset as like, I just need to get a win. I don't want to go through that war. I don't want to get knocked out. I don't want to deal with that again. Let's just out technique this guy and get this victory and move forward. Darren Till fought a smart fight. He fought a really good fight. He utilized leg kicks. He really shut down Kelvin's boxing game with the clinch. The taller guy's able to dig the underhooks to kind of elevate you and lift you up. And Kelvin didn't really have an answer for it. He kind of accepted it, had his back against the cage, and was just trying to find a way out of there and try to land something. But Till was a little bit more accurate. I'd say he just barely edged it out. I didn't really know how to score that fight, but let's just say fuck you to the judge that, the judging in that fight was like one guy gave 30-27 to Till, and another judge gave 30-27 unanimous to Gaslam. I don't know how that happens, but that's just scary right there. It just goes to show New York commission is maybe a little behind the ball on things. We'll get to that later with the stoppage, but I will say judging is one of the harder jobs. I mean, to be able to see a fight that's so close and both guys are kind of landing a similar amount of strikes and none are really crazy significant and there's no big takedowns, maybe one or two here and there, a couple scrambles. It's hard to say who you think came out victorious each round. It really is. I've never watched fights that clear cut where I'm judging, but perspective is everything. They see from a different angle, you see from this angle. What is it you're paying attention to? You can only watch one fighter at a time, right? I mean, who are they looking at? Think about a judge's difficulties. I'm not looking at both guys with a clear vision, a dead center in the middle of them and seeing every little movement, every little thing that's going on and counting. This guy landed two leg kicks. This guy landed a bigger left hand. Oh, I'm going to give the big left hand a little bit more points. Oh, this guy took him down, but he landed five elbows to the head and got back up. The takedown was nice. He didn't hold him down for too long. I'm going to give the elbows the points. It's hard to really to talk shit about judges, but sometimes it seems crazy how they score these fights. But nonetheless, Darren Till comes out victorious. Now there's talks about will he be able to challenge Israel at some point? I know Israel is on Ariel's show talking about him. It wasn't really the most impressive performance where it makes me personally say, "Oh, I want to see him fight Israel now, man. That this guy could potentially beat him." I'm not really that high on that right now. I think let's give Darren Till a couple more fights. But I appreciate his honesty in the post fight interviews about being terrified. It's a crazy game. The thoughts that come into your mind before you walk out for a fight is just some people on the outside don't understand, but it's cool to see someone like Till be so honest about it and open about his emotions. I've experienced similar shit like that, and to be able to get through that and to kind of reverse that psychology and get out there and perform to the best of your ability is not an easy task, especially when you're feeling those kind of things right before you walk out. You got to be sharp in there. You got to be confident. And when do you what is the best way you feel to perform your best, in the fight? That's what you need to look for. If you perform best having fun, you got to try to find yourself in the locker room and kind of let loose and joke around with your cornerman and have a good time and just set yourself free. Do you got to be mean? Do you got to be angry, focused, whatever it is? You got to get yourself there and stay there the whole fucking time, waiting until you actually get called up to fight. It's not easy, man. Um, Let me know who you guys want to see Darren Till fight next. I wouldn't mind seeing him fight maybe uh a Yoel Romero possibly, although he's like, fuck that, I don't want to fight that guy, and I understand that because that guy's a tank. But who else? I mean, Paulo Costa's out injured. Jared Cannonier's the dark horse. He might get the next shot. We don't know. I think Israel says he'll have an announcement soon to see who he fights next. Kelvin Setback, he's gonna have to rebound and get himself back. So we'll see. Um, Main event: Jorge Masvidal, Nate Diaz. Now, first comes first. Jorge Masvidal was putting on a great performance. He was out landing on Diaz. He was hurting him. He landed a couple of crazy hard body kicks, put Diaz down. He was clearly winning the fight for the 3 rounds. The one thing I will say, and it's true in every Nate Diaz fight, the guy comes alive as the fight goes on. Fourth and fifth rounds are his best rounds. I really wanted to see how he would come out. He looked like he was excited after that third round to, like feeling like, what, now I'm going to try to turn this shit around. Who knows what would have happened? It could have gone worse for him. It could have, Jorge could have stopped him in the fourth and fifth or put on a worse beating. We don't know. Doctor comes in. The one thing that I didn't like is the doctor comes in, he looks at the cut, and he kind of asks Nate, how you feeling? Nate's like, listen, I'm good to go. Doctor walks away. He doesn't stop the fight right there. He walks away. He's about to exit the cage. He approaches Big Dan. Now, usually when referees stop these fights, they look at the cut, they make a clear-cut decision, and they just start waving it off. Like, nah, no more. Like, you're done. We can't let this continue. But in this case, the doctor kind of talks to Nate. He looks at the cut, and it seems like he's going to let it go. He's walking away. He goes at the Big Dan. What I think is these doctors are there for safety. That's their job. They're there to stop the fight when they fear that, things can get worse, bad injuries can happen, and they got to protect the fighter because no one else is going to stop the fight. There ain't no towel in a BMF fight. There ain't no guy quitting. Nate Diaz is not a quitter. Jorge Masvidal is not going to quit. Nobody's going away. None of these corners are going to stop the fight. The referee probably feels pressure to let the fight go on longer than usual. I mean, the doctor probably felt pressure. That's what I feel. I feel like he was thinking, fuck, man, I don't want to be the guy to stop this. I really don't. But I don't like that cut. It's in a bad spot. It's bleeding a lot. I don't want to see this get any worse. So I'm gonna stop it. I think that's what happened. I think as he approached Big Dan, Dan's like, "What do you think?" And the referee's feeling this pressure. He knows that that's his job. And as far as his boss goes, or whoever's looking over him, that's what he's there to do. So he's like, you know what? I got to do my job above all bias, above all fear, above all the pressure that I feel to let this fight keep going. I got to stop it. So he stops it. Fans go nuts. People are fucking disappointed, flipping out, pissed off. I was one of them. I wanted to see the fourth and fifth rounds, but this is all selfish. Selfish thinking. We want to see that these fights go on and a clear cut finish take place, and we didn't get to see that. But you know what? Maybe this sets up a rematch. You know, Nate Diaz lives to fight another day. They say he's gonna possibly have to get surgery, plastic surgery, to get the scar tissue figured out under there, which is gonna put him out for a while. Jorge Masvidal has hand injuries he has to fix, so we'll see what happens. They got Conor McGregor in the talks. It seems like Jorge's trying to kind of build that fight by kind of like demeaning Conor McGregor and being like, "Listen, this guy doesn't want none of this. Like he knows that, UFC knows that. I'm too much of a man for this guy." But saying that, I feel is going to piss off Conor even more, and he's going to pick that guy to fight because that's how Conor is. Because to be a BMF, you got to fight that guy that's saying you're fucking scared and he's too much of a man for you. Oh, is he? Well, I'm a BMF, so I want that guy. Conor's that type of guy, so I wouldn't be surprised if he fights Jorge next. They say they're working on a fight with Conor now. I think it'd be smart to get Conor somebody else first, at least. They're looking at the Cowboy route. That might be the plan for January 18th. We don't know. Gaethje's still trying for it. We'll see what happens, but who knows, man? I think a lot of people want to see the rematch. They want to see this ran back because a BMF fight should not be stopped by doctor stoppage. That's not a clear, BMF victory in a lot of people's opinions. So, what up, Pat Mack? What's going on, man? Boom. Yeah. So another thing that was cool, it was funny. Trump comes through the tunnel with Dana White. The crowd's going nuts. Honestly, I've never seen such an electric crowd. Being in attendance was a special night. It was just different. The way they brought the Rock out, the way played the entrances for Nate and Jorge. They slowed it down. They took their time. It was really built up. Trump comes in the building, 30 media members are fucking sprinting over there to film him walk in. The crowd's going nuts. They're booing him. They're cheering. He's waving. It was just a special night. It was definitely different. Once in a lifetime. Definitely something that I haven't seen before being at these fights live. And I've been to some of the biggest cards. It was definitely a big night for the UFC, especially when they say the Canelo fight got held up for the main event for the UFC to take place. They literally played it in Vegas and held that fight up, and it made them wait to fight because they didn't want to go head to head. I don't know. What does that tell you? That's some crazy shit right there. If we had any fan questions, I would get to them. Doesn't look like we have many. Let me check the Twitter right now, see if we got anything for the guy. Guys are fucking slacking. Where the boomerangs at? Chill. Um, let's see. I got one question. It's from my fucking brother. He says, "Who was that handsome man sitting to your left at the fights?" Oh, I don't know. Could it be you? Yes, me and the older brother Keith Kelleher. Shout out. Went to the fights, had a blast, and then I had Captain Eric Albarracin on my right, going nuts. That was a lot of fun. Pat Mack, we got a question here. You gonna train with Coach Eric? I saw you take a pic with him. Honestly, man, that would be great. I would love to get some training in over there in Arizona, that Neuroforce place, and with him at his gym and those guys. It wasn't in the plans. I didn't really talk about it, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think I'm going to be going out to California to do my training camp with Dillashaw and those guys. Maybe link up with Chito Vera and Timo Yama and kind of just mix it up out there and get the best that I can, and then go off to the fight in Vegas. The next fight, Bull Roar MMA podcast. When's your next fight? Anyone you got your eye on? I got my eye on all of them. But yeah, it's looking like January 18th in Vegas. The opponent is Contender Series guy, I believe. The arena is TBD, to be determined. I believe Vegas. Obviously, that's the card that they're rumored Connor's going to be on January 18th. So that would be cool. Um, yeah, but tune in. I'm sure there'll be something posted soon. I signed the contract. We're just waiting to see what happens. But yeah, that's the UFC 244 Boom recap. We got more music coming out. If you give a thumbs up and subscribe, I really appreciate it. My music's up on my YouTube channel, also Spotify. I post the links on my social media, Instagram and Twitter. We got Brian Boom 135. Give me a follow. And yeah, appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks. Boom.